Here are three price targets that I have for BNB in 2025, even though nothing I say is financial advice. But my first price target, that's going to be $2,000. Now, the reason for that, I think it's going to come down to the fact that the BNB chain is very amazing. After all, the BNB chain is a decentralized blockchain ecosystem, quite simply put. And some people may argue that, hey, Solana is better. They say that, hey, this is kind of antiquated, it's kind of old-fashioned, it can't do well moving forward. But I think the record does speak for itself. And historically, we do know that when it comes to this, again, the BNB chain, it's been an amazing place for fantastic DeFi projects. I'm talking about decentralized finance, blockchain gaming, NFTs. And why is this very good news? Because we have to take a look at, for instance, the NFT market and as well as the DeFi market. Both of them, each individually by 2030, is predicted to have a market valuation of over $200 billion, according to BNB Research. So that right there, I think, is very good news, of course, when it comes to something like the BNB chain. Not to mention, we take a look at also blockchain gaming. By 2030, yet again, according to BNB Research, they predict that by that year, that market size is expected to be worth over $300 billion. So really, I think this is all very good news when it comes to the BNB chain. I think naturally moving forward, there's going to be more projects that are going to pop up regarding those markets. And I think because of the track record that we see of the BNB chain and how projects in those related fields have done so well on here, I think naturally it's only fair to assume that many future developers may choose a place like this as well. So I think it's very good news. Now, also, I think there's something that people often don't really consider, but I think this is something that really could be massive for its future. And that is the potential for fantastic AI projects on here. Now, people may be thinking that, okay, the hype for AI kind of, disappeared. It was good before, but not really anymore. And some people may think that this won't be a good place for AI, but why not? The way you take a look at it is that, again, it's a proven ecosystem. We know that it's very massive. And again, why would it not be a good place for AI projects? Keep in mind, the AI market is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion in size by 2030, ultimately, again, by Grandview Research, because, after all, they like to predict things. But besides that point, I think the future potential of the markets that really could have fantastic projects and may choose something like the BNB chain, I think is very impressive. And keep in mind, people may think that nearly $2 trillion isn't good, but really, the GDP of Brazil last year, back in 2024, was around $2 trillion. And we all know Brazil is very amazing. So when I take a look at the AI market, I think it's very amazing. And naturally, all of this, I think, is going to benefit the BNB chain. Now, granted, not every single project that's going to pop up in this sector, especially moving forward, it's not only just going to gravitate towards the BNB chain. Of course, they may gravitate towards other places like Solana, Avalanche, Algorand, wherever the case may be, right? I mean, there's a lot of possibilities. And I'm just saying, because BNB chain has very good track record, it's very massive, a lot of fans, a lot of hype, I think naturally this is going to be very good for a lot of future developers to choose potentially. And not to mention, when I take a look at Binance, the exchange, I mean, this right here is very impressive. Arguably the number one exchange as of right now. Take a look at the amount of users. It's over 100 million. I mean, when I take a look at Binance, of course, people may think that, oh yeah, take a look at CZ, the co-founder of Binance, allegedly not too long ago going to prison. But the way you take a look at it is that really Binance still has a bright future. And I think naturally a lot of the popularity when it comes to Binance is of course going to trickle down to something like BNB. I think it's only fair to assume that. I do really like the complete package here. When I take a look at BNB, it really reminds me of Crow. If you take a look at Crypto.com's Chronos and you take a look at Crow, kind of reminds me of something like this. That's the most direct competitor, I would guess, when it comes to something like this, because of course, Crypto.com is a massive exchange, much like Binance. Crypto.com has Chronos, and also we take a look at Binance and also the BNB chain. And then we have BNB, much like Crow from Chronos. So again, I think, it just kind of reminds me of like that whole Crypto.com, Chronos, Crow ecosystem, I would arguably say, but then in just much more larger scale. And in this case, of course, something like BNB, when I take that into consideration, reaching the price of $2,000, that really wouldn't surprise me whatsoever during this bull run when I consider, again, just how fantastic it is. Now, my second price target is going to be $2,500. Now, why don't I think this is crazy? It's because if it were to go to that price, considering current circulating supply, market cap would actually be around $356 billion. Now, people may be thinking, okay, that's kind of crazy, but we have to take this into consideration. Back in 2021, Ethereum reached an all-time high market cap of around $550 billion. Now, why am I using this example? It's because even though Ethereum has a lot of fans, a lot of hype, we have to consider how back in 2021, during the peak of that bull run, there was roughly around 300 million crypto owners. However, we fast forward to today, according to Crypto.com research, we have over 600 million crypto owners. So that's practically double. So if Ethereum could reach around $550 billion in market cap years ago back then with far less crypto owners at that time, why can't, let's say this time around, once the market really picks up again, once there is a fully fledged bull run in fifth gear, so to speak, why can't something like BNB reach a market cap that is around $200 billion, less than that? Again, Ethereum's all-time high market cap back in 2021. I just don't see why not, especially this time around. We take a look at the Bitcoin ETF, of course, the Ethereum ETF, which of course is naturally, I think, going to really create a positive sentiment for the whole crypto space overall, but also the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption. I really don't see why not, and I don't think $2,500 would be too crazy, in my opinion. Now, my third and final price target is going to be $3,000 when it comes to BNB. And now, some people may think that, okay, this is impossible. And not only that, they may think that the potential upside is kind of bad going to the price of $3,000. But the way you take a look at it, even though $3,000 is quote unquote only around, a little bit less than a 5.5x from here, we have to consider how massive BNB is as a project. So I don't think it's too bad. Not to mention, when I take a look at something like, again, BNB going to the price of $3,000, considering current circulating supply, market cap would be around $430 billion, more or less. And that, again, is still over $100 billion less than Ethereum's all-time high market cap back in 2021. So again, I don't think it's too much to ask for. And this kind of harping to my previous point that I mentioned in the previous section of this video. But even besides that, I think a major bullish factor that could very well allow for this to hypothetically happen is the fact that we have to consider, again, the number of institutional investors, the amount of enterprise adoption, how there's over 600 million crypto owners currently. We also have to consider how this time around, the sentiment, just as a result of that, could be a lot more bullish. And some people may be wondering, okay, how soon? Usually, altcoins, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. Now, the last Bitcoin halving event happened in April of last year, so 18 months from there would actually mean around October this year. And that is why I titled this video 2025 price targets. I'm more so taking a look at near the end of this year. Now, it's not a surefire date, keep in mind. Each cycle is going to be different. The sentiment, what goes on with the market, just overall, the economy. I'm totally aware of that. But historically, it's pretty much been the case, and that's why I pay attention to it. However, again, it's not a guarantee this time around because, truth be told, no one, at least personally that I know, and also I can't personally tell the future. I can only take a look at the past and take a look at that data and maybe make deductions as to what could possibly happen in the future, even though there's no guarantees. But let's take a look at a very reputable individual who not only is the founder of Cardano, but the co-founder of Ethereum, an individual by the name of Charles Hoskinson. Back in November of last year, he did say that 1 to 2 years from then, he said that he could very well see Bitcoin reaching anywhere between $250,000 all the way up to $500,000. I mean, could you imagine that? If, let's say, Bitcoin were to reach that range, right, anywhere between $250,000 all the way up to $500,000, considering Charles Hoskinson's best case scenario timeline, which is a year from November last year, so that's going to be November this year, let's say that happens. Could you imagine what happens to BNB then? At that point, $3,000 really wouldn't seem that crazy in my opinion, not to mention that timeline right there, that 1 year timeline from November actually kind of fits in line with when altcoins usually peak as a worst case scenario, historically speaking, which would actually mean around October. So again, kind of close to November, basically. Now, again, Charles is talking about Bitcoin. He's not talking about altcoins, but typically when Bitcoin does do that well, usually we see altcoins perform very amazing, at least in some cases. I can't say in every case, but I'm just saying. So this is why I'm staying patient when it comes to this. I'm not giving up, and I'm more so taking a look at near the end of this year. But regardless of that, $3,000 when it comes to BNB during this bull run, that wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. I get it. There's a big pullback as of right now, generally speaking, for many altcoins and also Bitcoin in a sense. But again, I think better days are ahead, and $3,000, that wouldn't shock me whatsoever. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. Greatly appreciate it. It's only the captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm a peace. Bye.